In this lesson, we'll talk about the process of using tags inside of Cinema 4D. Okay, so we're just going to start with a blank scene once again. And let's set up something really quick, just so we can see sort of what it is that we're going to be working with. So let me drop in a cube, and let's say maybe just a simple sphere. Okay, now let's set up just a couple of quick materials within this scene, and that'll give us a chance to sort of explore these tags and what they do. So I'm going to come down here to my Material Manager, double-click to make a new material. With this selected, let's come over here to our Attribute Manager. Let's go to the color, click on that, and let's set this to maybe just a red color. Okay, so that gives us sort of a red material here. Now we'll talk a lot more about materials as we start to get a little bit further along in this course, but for now we're just going to do this really quickly, just for the sake of demonstration. Now let's make another material here. Again, double-click to make a new material. Once again, select it, go to the Color tab, and let's set this one to maybe more of a blue color. There we go. Now, when it comes to working in Cinema 4D, one of the fundamental things that we have is what's called a tag. Now, a tag can be responsible for a lot of different things, everything from the material that's being applied to how the object is being rendered to any sort of dynamic simulations and lots of other things. Now, you'll start to see tags very in-depth as we start to get a little bit further along in this course. But for now, let's just see what happens if we take, let's say, this red material. I'm going to just simply left-click and drag this onto my sphere. Okay, so now my sphere turns red, and if you look closely, up in my Object Manager, we have our sphere, and we have this little thumbnail up here that shows us the texture that's being used, or the material that's being used. Anything that we see in this open area of our Object Manager is what's called a tag. Now this, in our case, if we hover over it, you can see that this is a texture tag. Now same thing, if I go over here and drop this blue material onto my cube, you can see now this cube receives this new texture tag for the blue material. Now if we, let's say, wanted this object to no longer have that red material, what we could do is just simply go up to the tag, select that. You can see it has this orange highlight around it showing that it's been selected. Just press the delete key on my keyboard, and now that sphere no longer has that texture tag, which means no materials assigned, and we go right back to the default material. Now let's drop this back on here. Let's say maybe instead of having a blue material on this cube, let's say we wanted it to be red also. Well, if I come in here, take my red material, drop it on top of that cube, you notice the cube does turn red. But if you look closely up here in my Object Manager, the cube now has two texture tags assigned to it. So what it has done is it's basically added an additional tag. Now that's not really a problem in my case, but be aware that sometimes whenever you start to make changes like this as far as dropping materials onto objects that maybe already had materials, you may wind up inadvertently having many tags on here that don't need to be there. So when it comes to the ordering of your tags, the order that we see here actually is important. So anything that is listed on the further right-hand side of the screen is going to be the one that takes priority. So let's say I take this blue texture tag, click and drag it over to the other side. You notice now it's on the right-hand side, it takes priority, and now my cube turns blue again. Now, what do we do in a situation like this where, let's say maybe we have this blue material here, and let's say just for demonstration's sake, I just select that and delete it. So now we just have a red material. What do we do if, let's say, we wanted this cube to be blue now, but we don't want to have a whole bunch of additional texture tags? Well, instead of taking my blue material and left-clicking and dragging it directly onto the object itself, here's what you want to do. You want to take that material, and if you have a texture tag here already, click and drag your blue material up onto the existing texture tag. Once I let off, you can see now Cinema 4D replaces my existing texture tag with a new one. So this is going to be a much cleaner, much more efficient way to work. Now this is just one very simple example of using tags. As you start to get a little bit further along in this course and Justin starts to get into modeling with you and Delano starts to take you through some of the rigging and animation features of Cinema 4D, you'll start to see where, as we start to select objects, inside of our Object Manager, we can actually go to this Tags menu. And inside of Cinema 4D, we actually have a number of different tags or commands that can be applied to objects. Again, these tags can have everything to do with how an object is displayed, how an object is displayed in the camera, any dynamic settings, and a lot of these tags and things that we find here are tools and features that cannot be found anywhere else in Cinema 4D. So tags are going to become a very, very important part of your workflow as you start to get a little bit deeper into this application. But for now, that's just a quick look at a very, very simple example of how tags work and how they get used inside of Cinema 4D.